Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a really sticky morning here on the balcony. Today I wanted to flip through Disney Files magazine with you and talk about some of the things in the most recent edition of this little magazine. So that's what we're going to do today. We're just doing it here from home. It's first thing in the morning. I thought, let's sit down, enjoy a coffee together. This is like a berries and cream flavored coffee, which is really good, by the way, but it's like Bridgerton edition. You guys familiar with that show? I think it's a show. It's gotta be a show, but I have no idea what's going on with that. So fill me in the comments, but that's not why we're here today. Like I said, I wanted to talk to you about this magazine. So this is the Spring 2024 edition, volume 33, number 1. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, Disney Files magazine is this publication that Disney Vacation Club members are sent every once in a while. I want to say it's sent out quarterly, so like, spring, fall, winter, summer, all of that, but I don't know if that's entirely true. Sometimes it doesn't show up. I don't know if that's just me, but nonetheless, they got some information here about stuff that sometimes is a little bit out of date. Like, it's a fun little thing to flip through, but it's not always, I don't know, like sometimes information that is in here is stuff that's coming up. Sometimes it's old news. So it's fun, but not necessarily the most informative thing all the time. Nonetheless, I figured we could flip through today, talk about some of the stories or articles that are in here, and I want to share some of my thoughts on that because I got a lot of thoughts when it comes to this particular magazine. I did, of course, flip through it already, so I've got some notes in here just to remind me what we're going to discuss. As always, though, I want to hear from you guys, so if there's anything that you think I missed or you have any thoughts on any of this, let me know in a comment down below. I will say, as we start to crack into this, though, I did get a comment on a video where I talked about Old Key West a couple weeks ago now, and basically this person was not happy that I shared some honest opinions about Old Key West. And look, because I'm going to share some honest opinions about the stuff that's in this magazine, I just want to remind everyone that this is not an echo chamber. In other words, this is not one of those places where I'm only going to share the things I think you want to hear. I'm sharing my honest opinions here and I'm being as real as possible. That's how we do things on the channel in general. So if you're looking for someone who's going to be like super positive about everything and completely sugarcoat every topic, this is not the channel for you. I call it like I see it. Sometimes things make me happy. I think that they're great. I talk about that accordingly. Sometimes I think things are BS and I talk about that without pulling any punches. And that's gonna happen here as we discuss this magazine. So anyway, let's get started. Right off the bat, one of the first things that they mention kind of on the bottom of page 2 here is a trip tip, as they call it. And they say that you may have heard that through 2025, Walt Disney World Resort members and guests checking into Disney Resort hotels, including Disney Vacation Club resorts, may enjoy at no extra charge a Disney water park on their arrival day, subject to availability. Now, I'm not entirely sure what subject to availability means in this case, but I'll get back to that here in a second. Note that this benefit does not apply to Good Neighbor hotels. If you're planning to take advantage of this new benefit during 2025 trip, consider packing a swimsuit and a small bag so that you can drop off your larger luggage at the resort before heading to the parks. Okay, so I feel like this is a notable change, and it's kind of relevant because we were talking about checking in at Walt Disney World Resort hotels recently. We were actually discussing the like tips and tricks, like this hack, if you will, for getting into your hotel room earlier. I've heard a lot of people talking about different ways that you can make this happen, and quite frankly, I don't think that hack actually works. I think it's just the luck of the draw depending on a number of factors, and a lot of you seem to agree. But part of that discussion was me saying that based on these new benefits, and this is the benefit that I'm talking about coming in 2025, I don't think that it's going to be as likely that you get your room ahead of time as it's been in the past. So even since, I don't know, 2019, I feel like it's not been all that uncommon to get your room early, to be able to get into your room early. And of course, this is like just my experience, and I've stayed at a number of places since 2019, but as time has gone on, it seems like rooms are becoming available later and later, which makes sense because, first of all, check-in time is at 3 p.m. for regular Disney Resort hotels and 4 p.m. for DVC villas. But I also think that with everything that's been going on recently with Disney and just the rest of the world, staffing isn't quite where it needs to be. And I feel as though rather than making the necessary adjustments, maybe there's the potential that Disney is going to just accept things as they are, whether they can't find more people or whether they choose not to find more people, and just anticipate that people are going to get into their rooms later on. And the way to cushion this blow is to give them the opportunity to go to a water park on their check-in day. So you arrive at whatever time you're going to arrive, make your way to a water park for free, and you can spend your time and attention there rather than thinking about how long you're having to wait for your room. Now again, I know that there are a lot of people out there who like to do a park day on their arrival day. This isn't for everybody, especially because it does come at a cost, but if you have a place to go and it doesn't cost you anything, I can see that being a really nice misdirect on Disney's behalf. Now, I do have some questions about this. So since it is subject to availability, it makes me wonder if the water parks are more likely to reach capacity in 2025, and then that makes me wonder if they're more likely to open up both water parks at the same time for longer than they have been in past years. Because I mean, think about it, that's a lot of people. The number of people who check into a Walt Disney World Resort hotel every single day, I mean, that's a lot of rooms, right? And then there's a lot of families in those rooms. That's a lot of people per room. If all of them go to the water parks, that makes me wonder if, and I know that this is like super in the weeds, but it makes me wonder if that's going to mean super packed water parks. And then for annual pass holders, for example, like myself, who has that water park option, if I won't be able to get in and maybe it's not worth renewing that water park option when the time comes to renew my pass because the park is at capacity due to all of these people who can get in for free. It's a question. That I don't necessarily have the answer to, and I don't know that we will have an answer to that until 2025 rolls around. I do wonder though, and let me know your thoughts on this, are you the type of person who would go to a water park on your check-in day? I feel like chances are, it sounds like a perk that would be a nice perk, but in practice, it's kind of excess stress and a little bit more work than the average family is probably willing to put in. Like I can't imagine back when I lived in Massachusetts, flying down from Massachusetts, or even when I would driving down, and then the first order of business being going to a water park, but not necessarily being sure when I can actually get into my room. I mean, yes, they do have changing stations and food and all of these options available for you to get yourself situated and kind of clean and comfortable at the water parks themselves, but is that really how you want to start your day? Especially if you have little ones, it can make things a little bit more complicated. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that though. Anyway, moving right along. The next thing that they mention in this magazine is the cabins, and I can't say I'm surprised. The cabins at Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort are the newest Disney Vacation Club property here at the Walt Disney World Resort, and people have been talking about it nonstop. There's some good things that have been said, there are some bad things that have been said. We talked about it a little bit here on the channel as well. And it looks like they're sharing some details about the resort itself. So, of course, you know, we have some artwork and everything, and they're sharing some behind the scenes information. I will say that as I was flipping through this, I noticed that much of what they're discussing is the same stuff that they talked about in that welcome home update that I went to a little while ago. So I had said that it was a really fun thing to do because even though it was a sales pitch, it did give you some behind the scenes information, and I liked that. That information is in here. So they talk about a few different things. So for example, like there's something special about this right here. We'll talk more about this when we actually tour the cabins because we have booked a cabin here in the near future. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but we have booked a cabin. We're going to take a wander around and just kind of enjoy a weekend away. But nonetheless, those details are shared in here, including some other really fun little details, like I guess there are references to River Country in the cabins. By the way, River Country, for those of you who don't remember, is the original water park over at Walt Disney World, I heard some people when I was at that Welcome Home update saying like, are they gonna bring River Country back? I wish they would bring River Country back. I don't think that there's any chance that they're bringing River Country back. Not only did it close like 23 years ago, so there's no way that there's any recovering any of whatever might be left over there. Also, they may have cleared some of it out or most of it out. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure that information is out there somewhere, but it's just there are other water parks. So I don't think that they're gonna bring back River Country or that they have any incentive or interest in doing that. But let me know though, if you would love to see River Country return. Tell me about it in a comment. But yeah, just more details about the details in the cabins, which is kind of cool. More details about Fort Wilderness as a resort as a whole, which I do think is really nice. Like I said, we do have a stay planned over there, and I've never stayed there before. I have wandered in there, and I've been there for like hoop-de-doo review and everything, but I've never actually stayed in the campground. Probably never gonna stay in the campground if I'm being honest with you. I've done plenty of camping. I really don't have any interest in camping here at Disney, but it's a story for another day. But I am looking forward to the cabins. I do think that that's gonna be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. And speaking of that, I also want to know if there's anything about the cabins that you want to keep an eye out for, or you want us to keep an eye out for. Tell me about it in a comment so that we can add it to our list of things to look out for during our stay. There's also some information about the Riviera in here, which again, we talked a little bit about when we were at that Welcome Home update. This talks about the Voyagers Lounge and just the details that are in there, which I think is pretty cool. And you know, again, I do think that it was great to go and do that Welcome Home update so that we could have like a little bit of info while we were here, but I know that not everyone is going to be here for that version of the Welcome Home update because I'm sure it's going to rotate out, especially with new properties that are open here at Walt Disney World. So currently, you know, they talked about the Riviera, which is the newest property here at Walt Disney World that's currently open, right? Yes. And then the next one is going to be the cabins. So I'm sure that once the Polynesian opens up, we'll be focusing more attention on that, and maybe Riviera will fall off the list of things to discuss. So I'm sure that this is going to rotate out over time. And it's nice that you have the details right here at home to enjoy. So anyway, next thing, we've got Lorcana. Do you guys remember Lorcana? It's one of those things that they released, and I feel like it was such a flash in the pan. It was here for a second. They were talking about how exciting it was. Everyone was talking about it, and then they weren't. I don't know what the thought process was behind Lorcana. If you want me to be completely honest with you, like I get card games, like I totally get the Magic the Gathering thing. We played that for a while, but I don't know why they executed this the way that they did. I'm just gonna move on from that though, because there's really not much else to say. Like I feel like they just they put it out there and then they let it fade away. Even at World of Disney, like the display is just not great, you know? So I don't know. Anyway, they talk a little bit about the Canada Pavilion. Okay, so on the next page is where we learn about Jen, a project manager at Disney Vacation Club. Now, I want to be clear. See, it says right there, Jen. There's a picture of Jen right there. There's a lot that's being said here. You know, it's a little bit of an interview where we learn a little bit about what is being done by cast members like Jen. But then here is an example. Now this, for those of you who don't know, is the fountain at Disney's Grand Floridian. It's specifically over in the DVC building. It's this really cute fountain with penguins from Mary Poppins. And it looked incredibly rough. In fact, when we wandered through the Grand Floridian villas, we wanted to inquire about some information regarding to laundry. We saw this fountain and we were absolutely amazed that it looked as terrible as it did. It was bad. Anyway, at the bottom of this example of this before and after, like, this isn't even that bad a picture. It looked much worse than this. And they only showed one penguin, not that the entire fountain was just gross. It says, helping Mary Poppins penguins return to looking their best is just one example of Jen listening to members and tending to details that have long been part of the Disney difference. Now, This is where I'm gonna get a little bit grumpy. And you've been forewarned. So take a sip of coffee and buckle up. I think that Disney has completely lost track of what the Disney difference actually is, or what it was, what those of us who have been going to Disney time after time, year after year, know as the Disney difference. It's more than just words. It's more than just saying it's the Disney difference. It's actually doing things. The fact that members had to complain about this for it to be fixed, that's not the Disney difference. The Disney difference would have been never allowing it to get this bad to begin with. And look, here's the thing. When I posted pictures of this fountain saying that it was absolutely disgusting, I had a lot of people pushing back on me saying, well, if you've ever lived in a place with hard water, oh, I have. I have spent many years living in a place with hard water. I also know that Disney has spent many years operating fountains in a place with hard water, and they never looked like this. This is a recent development that has come because they have taken a step back. They have become lazy. They have started being reactive instead of proactive about things like this. And quite frankly, when we're talking about a place like Disney's Grand Floridian, when we're talking about villas where people like you and I are paying maintenance fees, there's no excuse for this. Absolutely no excuse. Imagine showing up to your Disney vacation, walking in that like secondary lobby, and you're supposed to be wowed by this fountain, and it looks like it's been abandoned for years. And again, I get it. I know how hard water works. I know that it takes work to maintain it, but that's the Disney difference, would be maintaining it. Anyway, make sure that those seatbelts are securely fastened because we're not quite done yet. There are a few other things talked about in this, but I'm gonna skip past them because I do want to talk a little bit about the Tiana's Bayou Adventure animatronic that's shown in here. Not specifically about the animatronic, but about the opening for that. So, that new attraction, I should say. So, they do show this animatronic, which, by the way, I'm really excited to see the animatronics because they've been talking a little bit about them, like here, there, and everywhere, and because we know that it's going to be opening soon, I'm just excited. I'm excited to see what they come up with. But this reminds me of the whole situation surrounding Tiana's Bayou Adventure previews for Disney Vacation Club members. So for those of you who aren't aware, and it's too late now at this point, so I apologize if you didn't know about this sooner, but Disney Vacation Club members, it was announced that they were going to have the opportunity to preview this attraction ahead of it opening for the general public. And Disney announced this, I believe it was on the 14th of this month, and they said, you know, prepare yourself because you're going to be able to register, but you have to have a reservation. You have to be using your points in order to have access to this preview. Now, if you've been following along with us for a while, you know that this type of perk kind of irritates me. I don't like the idea that, you know, DVC is supposed to have these perks and now you can have this preview, but you have to be doing a very specific set of things on a very specific day in order to take advantage of that. I don't like that, but the thing that really irritated me about this, and I know that there are some of you, again, out there, I want to get ahead of this. You're going to be like, well, you can't have everything. I understand you can't have everything, but I do also think that there's this direction that DVC has been going where they're offering a perk, but it's like only to those who happen to be in a very specific group and you happen to already have been there before you knew that this perk was available. That's exactly what happened with this Tiana's Bayou Adventure preview. So if you had a reservation already, and that reservation was made prior to the 12th, which was before the preview was announced, if memory serves me right, you know, I'll stand corrected, but you had to have had the reservation or modified your reservation prior to that date in order to qualify to be able to go to the preview. In other words, not only was this preview only available to Disney Vacation Club members who had a resort reservation using their points, but it was only available to those who happened to have been staying on the dates of the previews ahead of time, and it's only 2 days. Now, this little detail was one that I happened to miss, and I wasn't the only person, because as it turned out, a lot of other people were saying that like they had made their reservations, but they had made their reservations on or after the 12th and they couldn't get into the preview. I was one of those people. I actually had reservations at a resort and they needed to be tweaked, and when I tweaked them, I was like, oh my goodness, look at that. It turns out that I can do this preview because I wasn't able to get in for the annual pass holder preview, so I was like, how cool is that? But because I had tweaked my reservation after the 12th, I didn't qualify. Now, I'm not personally eaten up by this because I live here, so I can experience this attraction some other time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about it, but I know that there are a lot of people who are in a similar position to me in that they made the adjustments after they needed to have made the adjustments, or they didn't happen to have a resort reservation on the right day, so they wanted to tweak that, but it was already too late. Like, I don't think that that's cool. I don't like this. I don't like the direction that this is going when it comes to the perks that are available to Disney Vacation Club members. Disney Vacation Club membership is expensive. This isn't a secret. We talk about this all the time. And it seems like, again, as we continue to move forward, we're seeing more and more perks of Disney Vacation Club membership being limited to people who happen to be lucky enough to know that they're already happening, you know? And I don't like that. I don't like this like secretive thing of, well, you know, if you happen to have a reservation on a specific date, then you're good, but there's no adjusting after that. We saw the same thing with the Hoop-de-Doo Review DVC Christmas thing, where you had to have had all the information ahead of time and been lucky enough to get yourself signed up, and the only time that DVC talked about it was after the fact. I feel like this is very similar. Like, they announced that this is available to Disney Vacation Club members and they put all these stipulations in, but by the time that they announce it, too bad. I hope that you already fall within the group that qualifies to take advantage of this. You know, I just I don't like that. I also don't like the fact that Disney is always like talking up all these benefits that you have, all these perks that you have, but they're so incredibly limited. And that's one of the things that, you know, when we have a discussion about whether or not Disney Vacation Club membership is for you, I tend to not focus so much on the benefits. Yeah, we'll talk about things like the ability to book wherever you want, or resale restrictions, so on and so forth. Like, we can talk about stuff like that, you know, like the fundamentals of being a Disney Vacation Club member, but I tend to not feel like any of the perks are worth being a member for. And I think that a lot of Disney Vacation Club members agree with me. You know, like when we talk about the lounge, we talk about things like Moonlight Magic, like they are cool to do if you can take advantage of them, and sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. I mean, 2024, I'm not doing any Moonlight Magics. So far, I haven't been able to get into any. It's so hard to take advantage of these benefits, and I feel like as time goes on, there are less and less benefits that are just available to members as a whole. You know, I say that, by the way, for those of you who might be new members, because of things like Welcome Home Wednesdays. They used to have every Wednesday something that DVC members could go and do. You can go to the Atlantic Dance Hall, you get like a pin, a lanyard, all these fun little giveaways. And no, it wasn't like this huge to do, but it was this little benefit that you could take advantage of no matter when you visited, and every Disney Vacation Club member could take advantage of it. I wish that they had something like that again, you know, more than just like a little pin where it's like, or a button, I should say, where it's like, oh, I've been a member since this time. That button hasn't changed over the years. It's still the same button. So even that doesn't feel particularly interesting. And just, I don't know. I just think that if there was a tiny little thing, which would be so easy to do, it wouldn't even have to be a huge perk. You know, I mean, even the Chase card holders, you know, the Disney credit card holders, you have the ability to do a meet and greet all the time. Like, that's available all the time. There's nothing available all the time that every Disney Vacation Club member can take advantage of. Even the lounges have limited capacity, so you have to go on a wait list and so on and so forth. So, I don't know. I just feel like we're losing perks by the day. So, let me know your thoughts on that. There are a few more things that are covered in here, including some Adventures by Disney information, which I think is really interesting. I would consider doing Adventures by Disney, depending on the location. I usually am not into like tours like that or like trips like that, but there are a few places that it would be nice to not have to think too much about the planning process and just go. And they talk a little bit about Disneyland and share some members in the end of the magazine. But yeah, that's it. That's the Disney files for spring 2024. Let me know your thoughts. If you have had the opportunity to flip through this magazine, let me know your thoughts on some of the different articles. I want to know your thoughts on some of the stuff that we talked about here today as well, especially if you're like a long-time Disney Vacation Club member. Do you agree with some of my positions on this? Do you not agree? Even if you're not. If you're someone who's a new DVC member, where do you stand on this? I think it's really interesting when we talk about some of the more difficult topics or some of the things I'm more picky about as someone who's been a member for so long. It's so interesting to see the contrast. You know, like new members seem to not be as concerned about things that members for a long time are kind of concerned about. So I would like to see the differing opinions on that. So share them in a comment down below. Did you hear that? I think that was thunder. Anyway, perfect timing, because I think it's time for us to wrap up. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me this morning. Coffee's almost done. It was delicious. I hope yours was too. But for now, I think I'm off. I'm really looking forward to seeing what all of you have to say, and I hope that you have a wonderful day, wherever it is you are. Like I said, it's a little sticky over here. You might get a little bit of a thunderstorm, but sun's bound to shine eventually. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to see you next time. Bye, guys.